Hello traders, this is Rich from Tradesight. This is the market preview for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2014. With another update today where we had some pretty good strength in the Nasdaq. We're kind of looking for that, and we had kind of honed in on the BTK portion of the Nasdaq to really kind of lead the charge and really start to move to the upside. That definitely happened today. So we had the Nasdaq outperforming the broad market by about 50%. On a relative basis, so that's a pretty good day for the Nasdaq. The ES was up 9.5 handles. The Dow was up about 90. Internally, the market was pretty decent. The broad market side was actually stronger than the Nasdaq side internally. We had 1,400 issues to the upside on the New York side, and only 1,200 to the upside on Nasdaq. So definitely the broad market was the one that was performing on an internal basis, even though the top line says differently. But without further ado, let's move on to the major price charts and take a look at what's going on. Here's a look at the NQ futures with our price channel on it. Just going to slide over here and kind of zoom in on the price action. You can see that I like to call this a jump rope, where you gap up to a degree and hold it. So this is a jump rope above the upper channel. It gets us back into this positive area. So this is definitely a positive day for the Nasdaq, but there's a couple things that need to be noted. Volume was very low. Last 2 days have been weak. Interesting thing is the NQ futures traded less contracts today than the previous day, and the previous day was a major bank holiday in Europe, which is interesting. So while the market was moving to the upside here, there wasn't a whole lot of participation on the future side. Here's a look at the ES side of the market. The ES side of the market still in this channel. Let's drill down and get a little bit more distinct about that. Here's the price action moving back up towards the top of the channel. Once we get back up here, we've got this touch, and this of course was a major outside day to the downside. So once we get back up in there, that's going to be a really critical area. So we're definitely going to need to pay attention to this area. Previous high close, not the highs here, the high close, which is this white body candle right here. This the previous high close was 1882.5. So that's going to be the area to watch for sure on the ES. We got fairly close today, but didn't really give it a real good shot. So keep an eye on that. Volume, same thing. Volume was down again today, even though today was should have been a little bit of a better day than the previous session. Here's a look at the ES with levels and the seeker. So this is the full complement of studies on it. We basically closed just underneath that key 1875 area, which is 8 days. We closed at 1874 today. So this is going to be a pretty big area. If we do scratch above that, that previous high right in here is going to be in play. If we do continue to the upside, previous high, and then of course the risk level from the static trend line. To the downside, we're going to have first support at the 10 EMA at 1853, and then much more important support at the 50 period moving average, which comes in at 1850 on the futures. On the NQ side, NQs didn't quite get to the 4/8 level, which is going to be the next real level. So if we get there at 35.93 and 3/4, that's going to be a pretty big level. Then above that, the 50 DMA comes into play. To the downside, the 10 EMA is going to be the one to watch, and then the 2/8 level is the next important Murray Math level. I want to talk about the TLTs. We had a pretty good outside day down. Last Friday. Monday we had a little bit of follow through to the downside, just on net closing basis, but it was actually an inside day. Today we opened lower and closed back up on the day, so we don't really have any kind of a qualified move to the downside yet. 10 EMA has been breached, but so far it's still supporting price, which is pretty important here. Also want to mention the copper futures. Copper futures had this important candle, which reversed back to the upside, but have really not been able to play back to the upside. We're still essentially going sideways. Right now, if copper was to turn back to the upside, that would actually probably be bullish where we are in the cycle for overall equities. So really want to see this get up here, take out the 4/8 level, and start to move back up and take a shot at the 200, which it really hasn't been able to do yet. Moving on to the oil futures. The oil futures broke trend today, opened just a little bit above the 10 EMA and collapsed during the day to settle at the 50. So we had a really pretty sharp break to the downside in the futures. We just completed 9 bars up in the seeker startup phase, so this should be no surprise. But this is pretty good velocity to the downside, especially after we spent all these days here marking these little tiny ranges. If we do break a little harder to the downside, this 100 level in the oil futures is going to be really important because that's the 4/8 level, and also the static trend line here from the 9 bars to the upside here. Gold was weak today, but not nearly to the degree of the oil futures. The one thing to kind of keep in mind here, though, with gold is we do have a potential lower high in place here. It's not qualified just yet. We just need to exceed the prior low close on a closing basis. We got down close to it, but just missed it today. We're 5 bars down in the new startup phase, and could continue all the way down to 4/8 at 1250 if we do register a lower low here. So keep that in mind here. That 15-minute trade's been working pretty well, where we look for the 15-minute opening range and then play the breakout above or below that 15-minute range. So keep that on your radar. That's actually been working really, really well. It's actually been working really well for all of the derivative trades. It's been working pretty well in the TLT. I'll put the 5. I'm just going to switch this over to the 5-minute. Here's the 5-minute chart for the TLTs. It's actually been working pretty well. Here's the TLT from 2 days ago. Here's your opening 5-minute range. Then they swept the high here. You don't want to take the high or the low after 5 minutes. It really means nothing. What you want to do is you really just kind of want to sit pat and wait for this thing to make the real move. So we set our range here. Here's your range high for the first 15 minutes and then range low for 15 minutes. It swept it to the upside. This move was actually to the downside. Once we took this out to the downside, notice this protracted move to the downside that went all the way to a 13 exhaustion down here from this morning. Here's your 13 exhaustion. 15-minute range today was to the upside. So what you really want to do is let that settle out, finish, and then get out of that 15-minute range on a closing basis, which happened here. After it did, it took a little while to get going, but we did start to roll back to the upside. So once you resolve that 15-minute range on a closing basis, there's some pretty good trades out there. So definitely be on top of this. Here's a look at the individual sectors ranked from best to worst. BTK was up 3%, which was twice as much as the next best sector. So that was definitely the place to be today. I'm glad we were kind of queued up for that from the previous report. So that was really important. Nice move to the upside. The XBD was also pretty strong. The drug index was pretty strong. The XAU kind of snuck up there and was also fairly strong. The laggers were computer hardware. The XOI, oil services, also grossly underperformed the broad market as well. So definitely seeing a little bit of fatigue here from the rotation trade. So right now the rotation trade is kind of on the back burner, and the bounce back is happening. But what you really want to see is maybe one more day of this. But you really want to see the utilities and the oil services start to come back online here with some power and some bidding authority. Here's a look at the BTK index. Pretty powerful day. We definitely made good on this 10 EMA cross to the upside. The 6/8 level at 26.56 is going to be the next meaningful target there. So definitely keep an eye on that. Taking a look at the pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals had a really strong day to the upside here. Pretty strong gap to the upside. Didn't quite match, but got close to the previous high close here. I think the one thing to note though is as soon as we get above the previous high close, we are going to be reaching the 13 secret exhaustion here. You see the asterisk here. That's because our qualifier was working and didn't kick in that 13 until we get above that previous 8 bar, and we're actually really close. Semiconductors were fairly strong on the day. And definitely definitely want to keep in mind that this static trend line is going to be extremely strong resistance when that trades. That's right around 600.5. Transports were pretty strong today, but today we registered a 13 exhaustion here. It's fairly lateral. Here's your 1 candle. Here's your 13. There's not a lot of extension. So what that's going to do is it's probably just going to wind up making a lot of resistance between the 8 ace level and the risk level. Risk level is 78.42.5, which isn't too far away. But the thing we got to keep in mind here is that we do have this lateral this lateral signal. So right now there's probably going to wind up being a lot of false breakouts and whatnot in this particular index. So just be a little careful on the long side here, because we're probably going to start getting a lot of these breakouts swept and stuffed. Here's the oil services, still kind of grinding around this plus 1 ace level. Had our 13 exhaustion in place. The risk level was broken. If we do continue higher, this plus 2 ace level is going to be the big level to watch. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for Tradesight.